Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dorothy here from the CCMA. Lovely to welcome you once again on another beautiful morning for our continuing series of CCMA community chats. And delighted once again to be joined by Alison Creed of the Coaching Creed. Hi, Alison. Good to see you.
Hi.
And obviously, as always, joined by Niamh from WSI.
Morning.
So we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to log in. If you could just give me a thumbs up as usual to let me know you can see and hear okay, that'd be great. I'd appreciate that. So I know, Sean, you normally give me a heads up to let me know if everything's okay. Great, thanks, Sean, appreciate that. So obviously we're continuing our discussions in terms of the new ways of working, and I think as each week goes by we are looking at different aspects of it. So I know last week we talked about the whole mental health side of things, and we also talked about companies beginning to prepare for returning back to some form of work-based, office-based working, and that's really the topic that Alison is going to speak about today. So she's going to talk about the physical and virtual office and what we need to be thinking about. And I know she has a couple of polls that she's going to run as well that I think will be very interesting for everybody to participate in. So what I will do without further ado is, if that's okay, is hand over to you, Alison, and let you take over. Hi, Barry. I just see Barry logging in there. So good to see a good crew on this morning. So Alison, I'll hand over to you, and if you want to take it away there, and obviously any questions that come through, as always, we're happy to take any questions, so please send them through, and I'll let you know when questions come up online, Alison, and share them with you. So thanks a lot. I'll hand over to Alison.
Great. Hi, guys. Hi. Welcome. Thanks very much for joining us tonight, or today, this morning. What? I don't even know what time of day it is. I apologize. Okay, I'm just going to try and share my screen with you. Can you see the main screen, Dorothy? Is that showing?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, you might just want to put it in presentation mode, but yeah, I can see it. Yeah, perfect.
That's working great.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so this morning this morning is really about putting us into a mode where we're thinking about what we're going to do post-COVID. Last week there was a really good community chat. Some of you, a lot of you actually probably were on it, and it was really about how to get back, re-engage back into your offices, and it was really focused on the health and safety aspect. I'm not going to focus on the health and safety aspect because we don't really know what's going to happen over the next few months around how the lockdown is going to be staged, so that we will be going back probably in a staggered fashion, and there will be very strict self-isolation rules that we'll have to do within our offices. So I'm going to think more about what are the lessons that we can learn and what can we bring that served us into our work environment when we get back to a situation where people are able to use public transport and work together. So basically that's just the context for today. The agenda, we're going to explore opportunities to pivot to new ways of working. Basically, a lot of companies already had some working from home, but those who didn't had to pivot literally within a few days. So we know we can do it, and let's look at, in this discussion is really about, let's look at what we should do consciously in order for us to have a way of working that suits our organization. There isn't one way. So that's really, it's just to start the discussions. Let's try to discuss how to create choice for your people, look at potential cost savings there might be down the road for a new way of working, and look at, is it time to rethink your physical space? And then I'll give you some tips along the way, and please ask any questions in the question box as we go along. Dorothy will feed them back, so feel free. So first of all, let's look at, I want to ask you some questions. So we're going to do 3 polls, but first of all, I'd like you to think about, do you think your people will be willing to get back to business as usual? Are they raring to get back to the exact way that they worked before? And what are the expectations of your management, your leaders, and your people about how that might happen? So I think it's a great time to start talking about these issues within your management teams, but only talk about this stuff with your people if there's an openness to make changes. It's one of the things that I know I did when I was in people management roles, I often opened up conversations about, hey, you know, we could change this, we could change that with my team. And that sets an expectation that if you're going to ask questions, that actually you're going to take action based on what the feedback they give you. Is a big one around engagement surveys. We ask loads of questions of people. We ask them to dream about what they would like, give their ideas. And if time after time our people see that we're not acting on them, they become jaded. So don't ask questions unless you're prepared to listen to the answers and act on them. Okay, let's go into poll 1. So, Niamh, can you put the poll up there? Great, thanks. So what way of working do you think your company, your organization will have once COVID-19 pandemic is over? So this isn't, as I said, in the next few months when, you know, we won't all be able to go back at the same time for different reasons, but say a year hence or 18 months from now when there's a vaccine in place, what do you think is going to happen within your company? Just have a read of those and come back to us.
Great, we've got the answers rolling in. I might just give another 20 seconds or so.
Thanks, Dorothy. Just having a sup of tea there. And as I said earlier, I 100% do not believe that there is one way of working that works for every company. It's totally dependent on your organization and your goals, your vision, your clients. There's a myriad of different things.
Great, so we'll close that. Do you want the responses up now, or?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Great. See them there.
Okie dokie. Sorry, Dorothy, I can't see those.
Okay, I'll read them out to you. So
Yeah.
15% are saying 100% back to normal. 0% are saying 100% working from home.
Yeah.
The biggest one is 46% are saying defined and scheduled working from home, e.g. 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And then 15% are saying you'll have the freedom to choose. And then 23% are saying only certain job levels can work from home.
Great. Okay. Thanks a million. Thanks a million for that, guys. So that's
No
really,
problem.
really good to know. And that gives us a basis also for talking about different options later on. I think the interesting point there is that there's actually, while a lot of people are sort of saying, yeah, well, we will have some working from home in the future, nobody, oh no, 15% are saying we're just going to go back to the way we are. That means 85% are saying there's going to be some changes. So thanks a million for that. Maybe we can run the next poll now, Niamh, if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so here I want us to just now think about what are the positives about working from home you've heard from your people, or even you've experienced yourself. And this is really around what are the benefits to your people, and there are benefits to companies as well, but what have the benefits to your people been? And we're going to accentuate on the positive here. So give us your ideas about what the benefits have been there, if you wouldn't mind.
And I think just to add, Alison, I know you've 5 options there, but if there's anything we haven't thought about that people want to
put it in the
panel, it'd just be interesting to know, because I know some people are saying obviously the current way of working from home for a lot of people isn't the way it would be normally, because obviously people have children, there's no schools, there's obviously restrictions versus your normal when everything is back to whatever the normal will be. So I think if you've missed anything there, certainly let us know.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah.
Great, so it looks like we have majority of the answers in there now, so I'll
Super.
share the answers.
Okay, so a reduced commuting time, manage your work-life balance, ability to manage their workday, more communication with manager and team, and some increased productivity there. Great, so that's really good. Thanks, guys. And is there any other positives coming in, Dorothy?
I know Michelle is just saying she's having a problem with the poll working, so sorry about that, Michelle. We won't be able to do anything about it now, but we'll certainly look into it for the next day. No, nothing else has come through.
All right, great. Thanks very much. And now let's go directly into the next poll. And this is really, I want you to think about what way of working do you think your people would like post-COVID? Not taking into account any management issues, but what way do you think your people want?
And Alison, just while we're waiting for that, you know where you said earlier, you know, don't ask for input if you're not going to use it. Is there a risk in asking a question like this to your staff that they may think there is an option of 100% working from home, when ultimately that may not be practical for your organisation?
No, I think the risk is to open a conversation about that you're open to change when you're not. It's not really the definitive what the outcome will be. So if you say to people, we're going to talk about, you know, what we can learn from the way we've worked since the lockdown, and we're going to try and look at, are there different ways of working? It doesn't mean that if somebody says, I want to work, you know, 100% from home, it means, I'm not saying that their expectation is they're going to get it, but what their expectation will be is you listen, and that some of the ideas from some of the people will be taken up. In other words, don't open a conversation. It's the same with any change initiative, really. Don't open a conversation that you're willing to completely review your performance management appraisal system, as an example, when the reality at the end of it is you don't want anything to change. You just want people to feel like they, you know what I mean? It's more, don't create, it's the same as when you're putting in a new application. You put in a new CRM or a new system, you ask all your staff to give you feedback, and you show how that feedback was used in the design. But if you don't use the feedback and you just do it off the shelf, people get cynical. That's all. So it doesn't mean they expect to get exactly what they want, but they expect to be listened to, and they expect that you can show them how what they want can be parts of what you want are there for them because they listened. I'm sure people who do change out there will see that.
Share the last answers here on this point.
Right. Okay, great. So here it looks like a lot of our people are going to expect to have the freedom to choose, the majority, or else have an expectation about defined and scheduled working from home time. Now, isn't this interesting? So a huge difference between what you think your company will do and what the expectations of your people will be. And these expectations have to be managed because the majority of the people have an expectation that they'll have a freedom to choose, whereas that freedom to choose was only down around 20% in terms of what you think you'll be able to give your people. So you're already coming up, that's a bit of a conundrum about how you're going to manage that, and you need to think about how you're going to manage that, because as we said earlier on, the question was, do you think your people will have expectations of changes? And that poll sort of tells us that they will. Okay, so now let's go back to, okay, so we've done our polls. So next, let's discuss how we can create choice for our people. So interesting there, 56% of people think they will have the freedom to choose, or expect they may have freedom to choose. So what are the barriers to creating choice for your people? There is no judgment here. I am not saying that you should give your people freedom of choice. I'm just saying, think about, if your people want it, what are the barriers to giving it to them? Okay. So there might be the culture, you might have had previous to this a culture of presenteeism, and that presenteeism may have been simply that the people in the office, are the ones who were given promotions. There were people in the office, the ones who were there, managers like maybe wanted to see their people there. That presenteeism is all about, people being there, but maybe not actually doing the work, because most of the time we can't see what our people were doing. So all we're seeing is that they're physically there. It may be around a lack of trust. Maybe we don't know what they're doing working from home or working from somewhere else. And so if we don't know what they're doing, we can't see what they're doing, then that creates fear within ourselves as managers. There may be technology issues. I mean, I think the biggest feedback around working from home, the biggest challenge has been telephony. It hasn't been as smooth as it might be. A lot of companies have moved from answering their clients on the phone to doing web chat or email or, all the other different social media platforms. And then the question is, can you improve the telephony scenario, or is using other channels working for you? your people may need special kit. They may need multiple screens to work efficiently. Maybe the security isn't up to it or hasn't proved as good as you need it to be. Maybe there's issues around people having, good Wi-Fi at home, etc. These barriers will be different for everyone and different for every team. Maybe there's a skills and knowledge barrier where, your way of supporting your staff is actually to have people there who they can refer to actually face to face. And so that gives, less skillful or knowledgeable people. That makes them feel very secure. And you as a manager, it means that you can ensure that people come up to speed. This might be true where you've got a large staff turnover because you may not be able to pay top of the market. And so it may be a situation where you have to get people up to speed really quickly. So there may be the barrier there. Maybe a training and development barrier. Maybe your training and development is very focused around face-to-face, and because there's other issues around being face-to-face that really are supportive of an environment, such as getting to know people, networking, etc. So maybe if all your training and development is face-to-face, it's been difficult to deliver that online. And so that could be a barrier. It could be barriers around your process. Maybe you have policies, might have health and safety rules. You might have unions to work with, which means that you can't quickly, or you can't offer people lots of options about how they work, because you define how people work in very strict terms. It might be that. It might be client expectations. This is particularly true for outsourced companies. A lot of clients like to see, hear and touch, not really touch, but they like to come and visit their teams. They like to see their branding up around their teams. They like to meet the people face to face. And while that, I think, will change, in the end of the day, when you're an outsourcer, client is king. I totally get that. But the other thing is, it might be clients who are within the company. So it may be as simple as, your very senior management in your organizations are similar. They like to see people face to face, and they don't, and that's their modus of working. So that could be a barrier. So my tip here would really be to identify your particular barriers and ask, are they real? Like, are they barriers that have to be there? Or are they just the way we do things around here? And do they serve your clients and your vision and your goals? And this is really all around you as organizations. In the next couple of years, those of you who employ, I think I'm going to sneeze, apologies. Sorry, those of you who employ multilingual staff or just native speakers, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to get people to move, I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It's going to be difficult to get people to move country after what's just happened. So I think it's going to be interesting for especially those type of roles about how, what could happen is companies could literally be devouring each other trying to recruit the people who are already here. Or maybe you can get creative and actually recruit people in their native country. I know the IDA may not be happy with that, but it's certainly something we may need to think about, particularly for those of you who are recruiting native speakers for program type work. So not necessarily for full-time ongoing work. It might be for temporary programs or for shorter contracts. Getting them here is going to be a much more difficult problem. Any comments there, Dorothy, yet? Or any questions?
No question. Well, John has asked whether we record the webinars. So hi, John. Yes, we do. And as I said to you just privately, that we will, a recording of this webinar and all of our webinars are available on the website. One thing I was going to ask you that somebody talked to me about the other day, Alison, was that, one of the new normals might be if a higher percentage of people are working from home, that the way we workforce manage and workforce plan might change, and that people may have the option to almost self-select their hours. So, a company presents, these are the hours that we need served, and these are, the number of people we need serving them or supporting them. And that in terms of work-life balance and working from home, that somebody might be able to say, well, okay, I'll work 8 to 11 and then I'll, take a break and I'll come back in at 3 to 5. And that the whole workforce planning model may change dramatically for a lot of companies.
and quite a lot of companies are, bigger companies are doing that already. And so there are companies out there that we can learn from, that have that model. You know, in the end, it's very much like you know, an Uber Eats model, or, you know, one of those type models. But yes, in terms of workforce planning, look, allowing people freedom to choose, as an example, what times they work, it can be really, really difficult if your idea of how you manage your workforce is very much around, I want to make it as easy as possible for the people who are doing the actual workforce planning. So this is around, that's what I'm talking about, a barrier. So if you've got very few people in your organization who can do workforce planning, and it's sort of manual, and you don't have, you know, a good system to support them doing their workforce planning, well, then the easiest way to do workforce planning is to make your people go into the schedule rather than your schedule work for your people. So this is where making changes about how you work doesn't just challenge the people who are working, or the leaders. It challenges big time where the challenges are is to support people. So the workforce planning team, it probably challenges the quality team. It seriously challenges the training team. It challenges the IT team. So there are solutions, and it's around, okay, so then you think, okay, in order to create this choice, what do I get from creating a new way of working? So what do you get? Do you get more loyal staff? Do you get people staying with you for longer? Do you get more highly skilled people who are valuing working from home more, or valuing a work-life balance more? And that's where I think COVID is going to really change the market for people. Because if you think about, go on, sorry.
Just linked to that, Sean has asked a question. So he said, do you think that in the future, if your company allows you to work from home, it will make it easier to recruit and retain employees?
Yeah, I do, because, well, I really do, because if you listen to what's happening around, if you look at every magazine, every newspaper, every TV show, everyone's talking about what's going to change when we get back to normal. People are already saying we're not going to get back to normal. Your people, 56% of you have told us your people are expecting change. Most of you have said, the vast majority, 85% of you in your poll have said it's not going to be the same. So there's already an acknowledgement that it's going to be different. And so the differences will be, some people will go, I'm going back to normal. Some people will go, we love this, we're all going to working from home. And then there'll be other people who say, we'll allow our people a certain amount of leeway, or other people will say, we'll tell people that they have to work from home these number of days. And what will happen will be, your people have different expectations. So most of them will want the ability to work from home for emergency things, like kids being sick, like, you know, having to go back to look after an elderly parent. It may even be as simple as, you know, going on holiday, like to your young staff, they might want to go off to Barcelona, and it's €100 cheaper for them to go a day earlier, and they can work from their hotel. But there will be definitely people who want to work from home full time, who see this as an opportunity. People are, I think, if you reflect on it, we're all thinking now about what do we want from our life after this. You know, people are going, I've really enjoyed spending time with my kids, or I haven't, you know, like there's people who've said, I really like working from home because I can really think and I can do my work. Other people are going, if I never work from home again, I will be delighted. So there's lots of different things that people want, and people will gravitate towards companies that allow them to work the way they want. If you think about it, most of your younger people who are living in flats or shared houses, you know, for a lot of them, working from home doesn't work, because they need the socialization, they want the socialization. And if they're all working from home at the same time, they're actually getting, you know, there isn't space, they don't have the technology, etc. As they change their life, and they, you know, they pair up and they might have kids, you know, the work-life balance is so much more important. They need to buy somewhere to live, you know, for a lot of those people, the realization that they can work from home completely changes where they can buy a home, the life they can give their children. you know, and that is massive. And so I definitely think for those people, and they're the people who are really the ones who are on the journey of skills and knowledge and with your company, you know, those people are 100% rethinking. Am I going to buy like, you know, a small 2-bedroom in the city so that I can get to and from work within a time that I actually see my kids sometimes, or I'm going to work for a company that allows me to work from home quite a lot of the time, where I actually have a good life. So absolutely, I think people will choose companies that allow them to work the way they want to work. And if you look internationally, there's an awful lot of good research that proves this. I'm just conscious of time.
I was just about to say the same thing, so I'll let you go on to that.
Okay, no worries. So think about what barriers there are and ask yourself, really ask yourself and your management team, are they real? Are they valid? Okay, so cost savings, just going to say a couple of things about cost savings. There is a potential cost saving if you have a more flexible way of working, and say as an example, on average, your people work 2 days a week from home. 40% less space you need. On average, around the world, if you do an occupancy study of your building and of each desk in your building, you'll find that people use their physical desks in a building between 40 and 60% of the time. Now, for call centers, it's up higher, absolutely, and it's probably 80% of the time, between 70 and 80% of the time, but they definitely don't use them all the time. And that's around, you know, a 1-shift day. If you're doing multiple shifts, then you know your utilization of the desk is higher, obviously. But if you took a 24-hour, those desks are really only used about 10 or 20% of the time. So anyway, if you have less space, you've less rent, you've less utilities, but there are other costs that you don't think about that you've got less. You've got less printers, you've got less air conditioners, you've got lots of other technologies that you need. You've got less screens in your meeting rooms, etc. The other big cost, I remember doing projects where the cost of churn. If you've got a company where you're all squidged into an office building, but you need your teams to sit together, or you're you know, then the cost of churn can be huge. Most people move at least once a year within a building, and the cost of churn, for some of you may have brought this down, you know, but in general, it costs a lot of money to churn your people. They have to pack up, not just time, they pack up, movers come in, move their stuff, move their technology, move their phones, or maybe over a weekend, so you got to pay them even extra, and then they come in, and then it's a few more hours for them to set themselves back up again. All of that costs money. Facilities management, the people who manage your facilities, they cost money. And the other piece about it is, if you're using all your space for desks, then you in general are going out and spending serious money on spaces for conferences, even for meetings and for client events. So I would encourage you all to look at your property plan and identify breaks in leases, and look for opportunities. If you're going to change the way you work, look for opportunities to co-locate with other parts of your organization, or to perhaps sublet. Or a really clever one that I've seen is companies where they look to change the way they work and reduce their physical footprint. They also they talk to clients and see if clients want to take some space with them. Particularly those of you who work really closely with clients and probably have shared teams and stuff, this could be a good idea. So this is, we're out of time. So very quickly, how to rethink your physical space. If you can't get out of leases and you still want to, but you still want to rethink and change the way you work, one of the ways that you can use the space that is freed up from everybody not being there is to maybe create some more quiet space. It's the number one thing people say about working from home, is that they have time to think and they can get quiet space. Maybe create some of that for your younger staff who won't be able to work from home. Look at some creative meeting spaces, places to collaborate with clients, as I said, dedicated project spaces. Most people can't get enough of those. And socializing spaces, spaces big enough for you to have a town hall meeting. And this, my final tip here is, discuss why do your people need to be in the office? What are the activities that they're undertaking, and does the physical space support it? And that's something that you could be thinking about. now. So my final summary is start asking questions now about what you can learn from what's happened in this lockdown to benefit your organisation and your people. That's it.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Alison. I'm conscious of time and I really appreciate that. And I think very much the message, and I'm not sure if you were on the webinar we had with Annette from PayPal on Friday, but certainly you get the impression that a lot of companies, they've gone through getting people out of the office, getting them set up, and getting the organization, the technology, the equipment ready. I suppose locking down the performance, and that's been the focus of the last couple of weeks. But people, even though the restrictions are still there, are now planning, and very much what you were saying this morning, start doing that groundwork and knowing exactly what you need to do and the questions to be asking and preparing for doing that.
Because my gut feeling is that the next year is actually going to be very difficult, because you're going to have to be very directive on people coming to the office. People will have to come in very much within specific time frames. There's going to be lots of direction around what they have to do when they're there. They won't be able to willy-nilly use the spaces. They won't be able to, a lot of the time they might not be able to have their lunch together. They might have to eat their lunch at their desk. They're going to have to clean their desks regular. It's going to be very prescriptive. And that's going to create tension, real tension. And it's going to be prescriptive because of health and safety. But it's going to create real tension with your people, because they're going to say, jeepers creepers, we turned our lives upside down to enable us to work from home, and now you're managing us as if we're 3-year-olds. So that's why I think it's really important for you to start thinking about these things now, so that you can all together have an idea about how you want to work in the future, because it's going to get harder around this very directive piece that's going to happen now, and it could really start to create some bad stuff for your culture. So you need to think about how you're going to message that as well, and ensure that while your health and safety people, your risk people, they have the final say, I know, but you really need to manage the communications, because otherwise people are going to get annoyed.
Yeah, and just to close out on that, I mean, we had a webinar with Dr. Shane Farrelly last week, and he's actually since sent me a very useful, even though it's very detailed, a very scary checklist of what companies should be looking at in terms of reopening. And I think he talked about some of that last week, some of the things you were saying about, keeping people separating, staggering the start time, all of that. And it is going to be very complicated. If anybody on the call is interested in having a look at that checklist, just drop me an email to Dorothy at CCMA.
Encourage all of you to look at that call, because what I got from it was, this is going to be very, very challenging, because if you just leave it to your health and safety people, and not that they're brilliant people and they're trying to keep us safe, but if we just leave it to them and we don't start thinking about, the emotional changes for our employees and for ourselves, honestly, I just think we're going to create quite significant anger. They're telling me I have to come in between 8 and 4 on a Wednesday, and I can't, like, if I'm late, I can't work until 4:30. I can't get my work done because everything will be that scheduled. It's going to create a lot of stress in people. So I really encourage you that you need to get your communication team, you need to think about how you're going to manage those messages, because it's not going to be normal.
Conscious of time, Alison. So we're going to close out. I know, Alison, you're available. If anybody wants to follow up with you, just drop me an email, or you're available at the Coaching Creed. I'm happy to do that. A recording of this webinar will hopefully go up later this afternoon. It normally takes a few hours to download. Anybody, as I said, I know, John, you've already asked me, I'll send you the checklist. Anybody else who'd like to see that checklist from Dr. Shane Farrelly, let me know. If you want to put up the competition there, or you have it there, sorry, Niamh, I see it in the background. So just to mention, we just wanted to bring a bit of fun into things. So we've launched a competition today. It'll be going out on all of our social channels, where we've a prize of a very, very nice Poly Savvy headset that was kindly donated by Declan Doyle from Plantronics, now Poly. So the competition is either send a photo of your own home office, something a bit quirky, a bit fun, or else send a video or photo of your team and how you're all working remotely. So the individual prize would be the headset, and the team prize is a €100 pizza voucher, which I'm sure everybody would enjoy. And the last thing to mention is all of the recordings are available on our website. So for anybody who wants to access recordings of previous events, just go onto the events page, scroll down past upcoming events, you'll see previous events, and you'll see links to all of the webinars there. So please do access them. And tomorrow we have a sponsored event webinar in the afternoon with VHI and Dr. May, and it'll all be about your own well-being and health and care and physical well-being. So if you have time to tune into that, please do. And on Friday, our Ask the Expert is with VoxPro, part of the TELUS group now, and we'll have Roger Clancy and Daniela Limonata, I keep pronouncing it wrong, on that webinar. So hopefully some of you can join in there. So thanks a million. I know there's a...
And Dorothy, can I just say one quick thing, that if anyone wants more further detail, or wants us to go through further detail on what we talked about today, or any other issue that's coming up, if they let you know, I'm happy to do a webinar on it.
Perfect.
If
Great.
I have the knowledge, obviously.
Yeah, perfect, brilliant. No, and I think this series has gone really well. So so thanks as always, Alison. No, we've got lovely thank yous there. So thanks, Sean, and thanks, John. So everybody, please stay safe, and hopefully we'll catch up with you on some of our webinars later in the week. Take care. Thanks, Alison. Thanks, Niamh, as always.
Thanks
very much, Dorothy. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye. Bye.